I don't get that many visitors. I hope all is well with you. Oh, I'm okay. Considering all things, I guess it could be worse. The food here is edible, and no one has bothered me. I guess that my former life intimidates them. I go out for some exercise regularly with the others, and my cell is on the east side of the prison, so at least I don't bake in the afternoons. The library is well stocked with old books. You know, most of the books are donated by charities around here, so the selection is skewed somewhat toward trashy novels and mysteries. But every now and then I come across something worth reading. You wouldn't believe the size of the section on law books. Where do they all come from? I hope they're not stolen. By the way, that's a joke. Well, anyway, the last time you were here, you wanted to hear the full story. Who knows? Maybe the book will be a bestseller. Do you really think it's that interesting? Do I get royalties? That's another joke. Oh, well, be sure to get my name right. It's never Gabby. It's always Gabrielle. What? You never heard of a federal judge going to jail? Am I the only one? I doubt that. But if you want to hear the whole story, here it is. I was born in New York in June of 1963 to Richard and Louise Longy. That's Longy with a G at the end, not that stupid long or longy. It's French. My grandfather was French, from Paris. He was a lawyer and a judge there. Oh, he was obsessive about fighting anti-Semitism in France, and he made a lot of enemies. Well, he fell in love with an American singer, and after a lightning 2-week courtship, they married and moved from Paris to New York. He was lucky because right after that, the Nazis came, and he might not have made it out, being a Jew and an outspoken one at that. Although I never knew my grandfather, I have been told that the marriage was a stormy one. It seems that soon after the move to New York, he grew contemptuous of his wife, feeling that she was not up to his intellectual standards. I guess compulsions and obsessions run in the family because he went back to Paris during the occupation. His wife tried to stop him, but he went anyway. He wanted to do something to protect Jews there, and that was the last anyone ever heard of him. Anyway, soon after came my dad, who also became a lawyer and a judge, and married an artist. Following in his father's footsteps, he too felt his non-analytical, non-linear thinking wife was beneath him, and a silent battle erupted between the law and the arts, with me caught in the crossfire. I guess it's true that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, does it? Well, growing up in this household was difficult. My mother shepherding me through the art world, and my father insinuating his profession into every aspect of my life. Each one wanted me to follow in their footsteps, so I grew up in the worlds of law and art. I guess my father, being a lawyer, was more persuasive because he managed to make me feel that artistic pursuits were a waste of time and beneath the elevated status of his and his father's true noble profession. Although I loved my mother and I was very close to her and to her art, when I found out she had taken on a lover, well, another artist and a woman, My faith in everything I thought was normal was blown apart. But the only problem was that despite my father's attempts at subversion of art and my mother's, by the standards of the time, unusual extramarital affair, I found both worlds fascinating, and I discovered I had a natural aptitude for both art and the law. Now, if that isn't weird, I don't know what is. Art and law. But the funny thing is I saw them both as part of the same thing. A gathering of ideas, images, and pieces, and creating a picture that explains something that might not have otherwise been noticed. An artistic lawyer. Ha! Well, anyway, those were the cards I was dealt. I guess it could have been worse. My dad could have been a pickle salesman and my mom a kindergarten teacher. Joke 3. I'm not big on humor. So, up until college, I was totally obsessed with law and art. In high school, while other girls became cheerleaders, I worked part-time at a law office doing odd jobs and filing. I took art classes on the evenings and on weekends. And I got pretty good at both. I could look at a painting and tell the period, the style, the medium, the artist, and a little bit about his life. There were not many hers, just hymns. The only problem was that, in the back of my mind, I felt I was engaging in something of little or no value and was a betrayal to my father. Well, as for the law, I soaked up case histories and Latin legal terms by osmosis. Have you ever heard of a 17-year-old that knows the difference between bona fide and bona fidem? Hey, do you know what that is? My social life was non-existent. I was a total nerd. Okay, now I'm 18 and comes the big moment. Picking a career in college. For my dad, it had to be the law in an Ivy League school. That was a must for the daughter of a New York State judge. So off I went to Harvard Law School. I kept up my interest in art all the way through law school and actually managed to do a little painting. But law school is demanding beyond belief, so I was limited as to what I could do. Talk about Duralex. Oh, not just hard, but stupidly Duralex. Fucking hard. See what I mean? I just soaked that Latin stuff up. Oh, yeah, anyway, back to art. I had to put it on hold. What's the Latin for that? Oh, fuck. My brain is going soft in this place. My dad? Oh, yes, my dad. Well, as a kid, I knew something was wrong in my house. And when it came out about my mother's affair with another woman, I learned the whole story. Well, it seems my dad, being a true Longy, impulsive, an overachiever, and an obsessive-compulsive, had still one more bothersome trait. He was lusty. Oh, really lusty. And that particular combination was the perfect brew for trouble. Maybe that was what led my mother down that road. Or maybe she just needed a companion that shared her passions. I don't know. But he had any number of flings, which my mom would usually find out about and put her foot down on. Oh, and remember, as an artist, she had a very artistic temperament, and when she put her foot down, it was usually on somebody's neck. Oh, and she would wear heels just to drive the point home. That's another joke. Well, That would usually be enough to keep my dad, his neck, and his dick in check. At least until Gloria came along. Gloria. Gloria was my dad's legal secretary. I have no idea what the attraction was. My mother was much better looking and far more interesting. I always thought their sex life was okay, but maybe it was not as it appeared to me. Anyway, Gloria, she who gives good dictation, as I would refer to her, had my dad captivated. Totally and unreasonably captivated. One day, without any warning signs, he just up and disappeared. With Gloria, of course. The two of them just dropped off the face of the earth. You know, when I think back on it, they must have been planning it for a long time. He left me and my mom financially okay, so I guess he wasn't that much of a bastard, just someone caught up in some obsessive mind game that swamped out everything else. His family, his job, his life. Quaestio in utramque. Try to see both sides of the issue. But my mom couldn't. So soon after he left, I get this call from the NYPD. My mom OD'd on sleeping pills. Okay, it was bad, but was it really that bad? I mean, she knew who my dad was when she married him. I mean, hell, even I knew who he was, and I was just a kid. Gloria. If ever there was a name for obsessive, destructive behavior, it's Gloria. The loss of both my parents really shook me. My dad was my driving force, and my mom was my refuge. My drive was already baked in, but my refuge was gone. The conflicts, the secret lives, the betrayals, that's what I was left with. I was so confused, and I felt betrayed. So I spent a lot of time alone in my room, crying. I guess that my response to all this was that I built a wall around myself so that there were now two me's. The law me, outward, aggressive, and confident. My dad's world, and the one most folks knew me as. And art me. Fearful, secretive, cowardly. Where I could retreat to when things got rough. My mom's world. And that one, I would keep deep in the closet. But life has a way of moving on, and following in the footsteps of earlier, obsessive, overachieving Halajians, I graduated law school summa cum laude, and first in my class. I got a job at a white shoe firm in Manhattan, worked 90 hours a week, and made a lot of money. But I just couldn't turn off work. I was completely obsessed by it. Life was good. I had a great job, lots of money, and a really nice apartment overlooking Central Park. Along the way, I picked up a few boyfriends. And yes, some girlfriends. I guess that's another of my now not-so-little secrets. But nothing held a candle to work. Well, that is, except art. And And now that I had a few bucks in my pocket, I started collecting. Well, painting was out because of time, but collecting, which I did have time for, was just like the law. There was order, beauty, and the emotional reward of possession. I could actually buy some real art, and I knew just what that was. I also knew who had what and what it was worth. You know, my art collection was modest as they go, but it was mine. It's all mine. I had one room in my apartment that was my art gallery. I had nothing in it but pictures, a stereo, and one chair. No one was allowed to enter my private world of art. No boyfriends, no girlfriends, no one, just me. The door to that room was always locked. When work became too much, I would just go sit in my little art museum and visit all the places in the paintings. I could see them just as they were when they were painted. I could disappear. And that's how it went for almost 10 years. Work, 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 and art. Sum cuique tribuere. To each his own. The fucking Latin just keeps popping in. And then it happened. I discovered that justitia nemini neganda est. Justice is to be denied to no one. It's just some abstract concept with no practical application. The law isn't about justice. It's about money and power. Pretty dumb of me, right? Right. But I finally got it. And now I had to deal with it. Practicing law was an abomination. It was petty, it was foul, it was disgusting. But I still loved it. I guess that's how my grandfather felt when he went off to defend Jews against the Nazis. Talk about irrational, obsessional conflicts. So what did I do? I decided that if I could not practice law without vomiting, I would administer the law. I would become a judge. I figured that when things got really dirty, I would be able to bang my gavel and see that justice is delivered. Da mihi factum dabo tibius. Give me the facts and I will give you justice. That's how I would rule from the bench. So, I quit the white shoes and went to clerk for Judge Thomas Ringley at the New York Supreme Court. Did that work? Well, it was better than lawyering since I no longer had to deal in the dirt. Before long, I was tapped for an assistant judgeship with Judge Morris Jacob at the New York Federal Court. 1 year later, I became the chief judge when Judge Jacob met his chief judge. I was in! And it didn't affect my secret art collecting one little bit. Only now that I was a public figure, I had to burrow in a lot deeper. I had a false name, a numbered bank account, a wig, special clothes I wore to auctions. I never attended showings or openings, so too many eyes and cameras. I was the woman in black. Except that I didn't wear black. My sex life? Is that what you asked me? What the fuck business is that of yours? Right. I guess it is all out in the open now. Okay, so during those 12 years, my sex life never got out of first gear. A few flings, some one-night stands on vacation, that was about it. Nothing very exciting. bother me. I just never came across anyone, man or woman, who turned me on. Like, turned me on for real. I know from my paintings and from books that when you meet that special someone, you know it. You live it. It obsesses you. And that never happened. Or if it did, I was too busy to notice. It was just one of those quirks of fate that I had to preside over an art theft trial involving the FBI. Well, since I knew art, and remember, no one knew that. They thought I was some kind of wunderkind. I completely understood the case, and I did my own neck stomping, a la my mom. When some smart-ass lawyer tried to palm off some bullshit artifacts, bam, went the gavel, and that lawyer spent the next few evenings crying in his beer. Oh, well, did that ever get noticed? The FBI realized I knew my stuff, and that went up the ladder and then back down again until when the big Guggenheim break-in case came up. Guess who presided? After that, I became known as the art judge. Not that I really wanted that distinction. No, I was still collecting, and I still wanted to keep that part of my life private. Which I did. Well, I almost did. It all started to go bad with this high-profile case involving the theft of a small Klimt from the Frilling collection. You know the collection. Frilling, the Wall Street guy with the $300 million collection. Well, it seems that one of his Klimts, the Silver Girl, disappeared off his wall 2 days after a charity ball he gave at his penthouse in Manhattan. Frilling went nuts, and he passed that on to the mayor, the police chief, the DA, and the FBI. When a guy like Frilling goes nuts, he makes sure he is not alone. Oh, it came down really hard on the DA. I guess the mayor used the incident to exact revenge on him for some past political misdeed. Anyway, the DA fixated on this case, and the longer it dragged on, the more he fixated. Now, to me, the Silver Girl has always been more of a myth than a real painting. It is one of my favorites. The Silver Girl is one of Klimt's best. The image of the girl is there and then not there. It's a miracle in paint. When you see her, your eyes become fixed on her. Blink, she's gone. Heist of Klimt's Silver Girl. Wow. In record time, they made their arrest. A very, very accomplished young lady, one Anne Connolly, who was at the ball posing as the head of Bosnian Relief. Connolly wangled an invitation, and then, martini in hand, proceeded to case the penthouse and figured out a way in and a way out. Talk about accomplished. That place was wired so that if a mouse farted, the alarms would go off. In short order, they discovered she was an imposter. She was also an art expert and a very, very skilled burglar. Then they discovered that her dad was the guy that did the 6 Wyeth paintings in Maine. Connolly wouldn't talk and adamantly denied being the thief, and they had no real evidence to support their suspicions. Okay, so her dad was an art thief, and she faked her way into the ball. So what? It seems that the surveillance cameras mysteriously failed the night of the robbery, and the paintings were nowhere to be found, so they had to release her. They had nothing. For 2 years, the investigation dragged on until Connolly's apartment had a fire in it, just when she was away on vacation. By coincidence, the DA just happened to be there when the fire department and the police broke in to put it out. So there he was on the evening news that night, the DA looking very serious and imposing, explaining to the citizens of our fair city how he, our crime-busting DA, single-handedly found the evidence that positively linked Connolly to the theft. When they brought Connolly into my courtroom, I was stunned. I have never seen such an attractive woman in all my life. She had a magic quality. She was Klimt's Judith come to life. She oozed confidence and defiance. Oh, but not in an aggressive way. More in a way that made you want to believe her. It was her eyes, or maybe her smile. Whatever it was more than magnetic. It was irresistibly seductive. She wore a dark suit that made the most of her features. Oh, and she had some really nice features, if you know what I mean. Talk about confusion. But I was the judge, and I had to administer the law. Ta mihi factum dabo tibius. That was the rule in my courtroom. No nonsense, no bullshit, no personalities, just justice. And that's what I wanted to do. Except that I couldn't take my eyes off of her. And from the way that she looked at me, I knew that she knew that she had me. I knew it right away. She was my Gloria, my self-destructive obsession. The case moved along until the 4th day of the trial. The prosecution had everything. Well, that is, except the painting and the surveillance videos, but the stuff they got from Connolly's apartment did indeed positively link her to the heist. It looked like a slam dunk for the DA. Until, on the morning of the trial's 4th day, the shit hit the fan. Just like you read in the papers, the defense brings this ratty-looking guy, Jerry Mancini, into my courtroom. Oh, Mancini is a petty thief with a long record, and under oath, he says he was hired to set fire to the apartment. Oh, this is the jaw-dropping part. He says it was the DA's office that did the hiring. Now, this is really bad for the case and for the DA. The defense makes a motion to dismiss the evidence gathered from the apartment, saying it was tainted and therefore the fruit of the poisonous tree. The prosecution goes bonkers, saying the guy's a known criminal and is not to be believed. The defense counters with the suggestion that the guy is working a deal with the DA for another crime. Back and forth it went until I had to bang my gavel. It was a high-stakes he said, she said. With Frilling on the line to the White House, I quickly got the word from on high that I had to make a call. I adjourned the trial for 1 week while I gathered the facts so I could make a ruling. I wanted to interview Anne myself. Why? Now that's a good question. Was it because I was seeking justice, or was I seeking something else? I really don't know. I got to spend 2 hours alone with Connolly. Up to then, I had only seen her from the bench. close she looked. Well, it wasn't just how she looked, it was her presence that got to me. We talked about many things as a way of opening her up. But the more we spoke, the more I was drawn in. Oh, shit. Gloria. I spent much of the rest of the week in my art gallery refuge thinking about the case. And about Anne. I requested another meeting, and she and I again talked for several hours. It's difficult to explain what happened, but there was just this electricity crackling between us. We both felt it. When court reconvened, I issued my ruling to disallow the evidence. The defense requested dismissal. The prosecution protested, and without the tainted evidence, there was no case, so I had no choice but to dismiss all charges. Anne was free, and the DA resigned, saying he had to spend more time with his family. And that should have been the end of the story. But it was not. I met Anne soon afterwards, and 2 weeks later, we separately booked tickets for Jamaica. Her attraction to me mirrored my attraction to her. Those 2 weeks in Jamaica with Anne were the best 2 weeks of my life. Just the two of us, in the sun and in the water and at night. I knew for certain I had found my other half. Six weeks later, she was living in my apartment. 6 months later, she was living in my apartment. Unlike my dad, I had the girl, the job, and the life. Being with Anne was like nothing I had ever experienced in my life. I was completely captivated by her. She never left my thoughts. I even gave her the key to my art gallery. She fell in love with the collection and would sit by herself for hours in the room. Then she began to bring in some of her own artwork that she must have had stashed somewhere. First it was just a few pieces and then some more. I didn't want to think about where they came from. And then the Klimt appeared. I was speechless. I mean, here I was, the presiding judge at her trial, looking right at the stolen painting hanging in my art gallery. But the thought of turning Anne in was beyond me. Adding to that was being in possession of the silver girl. I now had two Glorias, overruling my better judgment. For the next 6 months, all was going well with Anne and me, except that she was growing increasingly depressed. Since she couldn't be seen in public with me, and her entries and exits from my apartment had to be carefully managed, she felt suffocated. We talked about it, but there wasn't really anything we could do except run off to some island and disappear forever, like my dad. And that was something I was definitely not going to do. Anne's life had collapsed down to next to nothing. She started drinking and doing drugs. I begged her to stop, but she was on this downward spiral. On a sunny day in August, Anne went into my art gallery and took her life with a gun. I have no idea where she got the gun. I was in court when it happened, and someone from my building heard the shot and the police were called. When they arrived, they found Anne in my art gallery in the chair with the gun on the floor next door. A soft Schubert string quartet was playing on the stereo. Anne was very considerate and moved many paintings so they wouldn't be hit by the spray. What the police also found was the long missing Klimt. It was hanging in the most prominent spot in the room. 1 hour later, I was arrested. In my own courtroom. So, why did Anne decide to end it all and leave me red-handed with the Klimt? She truly loved me. I am sure she didn't intend to implicate me this way. I can only think it was the depression or the drugs that put her in such a state of despair. She simply wanted to leave this world looking at the most beautiful thing in her life. Yes, I know people are saying I made that ruling so that Anne would get her freedom and that I would get her. I don't think that's what it was. Or maybe that is what it was. Or maybe I just don't know. That's it. Hey, maybe the name of the book should be Gloria.